Welcome to Wildcards. We created this podcast to get under the skin and to listen to incredible people that have gone on to do some pretty special things in their industries that they sit in. We wanted to speak to them about the game-changing moves that they've made, the companies they've created. We want to listen, most importantly, to the mistakes that they've made and how they've learned from them and how they've been able to create some special things within the industries that they sit in. Find out today what makes a wildcard.
Hi, I'm Sam Thomas. I am host of the County Business Talks podcast. So I've been interviewing people over the last few years, just talking to local business owners and entrepreneurs about their entrepreneurial journey. And I'm excited to talk to Alex today about the amazing company Tillo. I'm also a trustee of Rocking Horse, so you'll see a slide that comes up. And you can donate to Rocking Horse Children's Charity. It's a charity really close to my heart. Basically saved my son's life when my twins were born nearly 8 years ago. So they do some amazing work with the local hospital, especially at the Royal Alex Children's Hospital here in Sussex. So if you can donate and support, that'd be amazing. And looking forward to delving into a chat with you, Alex.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sam. And big thank you to James. Well, first off, I didn't ever think in a million years I'd be in the Brighton Dome on stage talking in front of so many people today. So big thank you for you all being here. I am Alex Preece. I've founded a company called Tillo. I'm the current CEO of the business and co-founder. I founded it 7 years ago. But what a lot of people don't know about myself is also I was in the British Army, so I'm a veteran. I'm a father as well. So I wanted to sort of think about the theme today. I was talking to James about sort of being here and talking to you all. And that theme today is that a journey of unknown, which you can see here. So, I sort of look back over my time from my disruptive sort of upbringing to some extent through to leaving school, no GCSEs or anything like that, and joining the British Army and then going to a war zone in Iraq and then being in Bosnia. And then fast forward to today, running a multi-million-pound international tech company, huge imposter syndrome sort of sets in. I sort of think, how the hell did I sort of get from one place over here to this place over here? And actually a lot of that, when reflecting, which I'm hoping I want to invite everyone here today to sort of think about the journeys that you have all taken to get to where you are, good or bad. And I think a life lesson there for myself, and hopefully for you guys, is that those unknown journeys are the most interesting ones, where you take that leap of faith, and it could be a bad road, it could be a good road. I think the bad ones for me have always been the ones where I've learned just the most incredible experience, even if it's taken a year, even if it's taken 7 years or a month or whatever. I've learned huge amount from that sort of time. So really excited to be here today with you, Sam, to sort of delve into some of these subjects a bit better. So I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Let's kick off then, shall we? Let's start. Just want to tell us a little bit about life growing up for you. Something maybe about your early years that's really, I guess, that's shaped who you are today.
Yeah, so my dad, just a bit of a background on my family. So my dad came over from Iran in 1979. So he left Iran because of the revolution that happened there when the Shah was overthrown. And then he came to England and he managed to get asylum here, and he went to school, met my mum, and then the rest is history. 4 kids later, I'm the oldest of the crew. We didn't have a lot. My dad worked sort of, tirelessly with my mum. He borrowed some money from my granddad on my mum's side to sort of set up the House on Pooh Corner, which was a little restaurant in Weymouth. And I just always remember seeing him working. We didn't really go on holidays that much. I think I went on holiday when I was 4, and then again when I was at school when I was 13 or 14. But I never really felt as if life was sort of hard. It was just, just normal. No one really went on holiday. No one sort of... I didn't really go without, if that makes sense. We didn't have a lot. We grew up, when I sort of look back at my schooling and stuff, and actually, curveballs coming here and there in terms of journeys that I had to sort of undertake. So when my mum and dad were, I think I was 11 at the time, they got divorced. Really horrible experience when I was 9. My granddad unfortunately got murdered, which wasn't obviously a nice experience. I was really young at the time, so I didn't really understand at 9 years old losing someone that close to me. My dad ended up taking a really sort of downward spiral from where he'd come from, starting businesses to then actually going bankrupt and losing everything. And then my mum and dad ended up splitting up, and then it was a bit of a turmoil in terms of lots of different houses moving into council sort of accommodation with my brothers and sisters, and sort of seeing, the end of this happy marriage, if you will.
Was the bankruptcy, was that what led to it, do you think? Or?
I think he was, he was an interesting character, and I think that was a way out for him. I think that was a way of sort of starting clean and fresh, and an opportunity for him to sort of set himself aside from where my mum was going, which was fending for herself almost. So it was difficult.
And I guess, like, for you at a young age, seeing that, but then you've still gone into running your own businesses later in life. But seeing your dad doing that didn't affect.
And I think that is a sort of effort. I think unbeknown to my parents, seeing that all the time, that sort of work ethic, that ability, that being able to create something from nothing. Ultimately, I think that is where I've been able to sort of take a leaf from his book and my mum's book of just working really hard to try to get to where you want to be. I think the military did a lot more of that, but I think unbeknown to me when I was growing up, which I was really lost. I didn't really, I didn't have. I was lost at school. I wasn't naughty or sort of bad or anything like that, but it was definitely a place where I wasn't inspired by anyone or anything.
But then, so let's move on to the army then. Talk to us about that, because obviously then you went at 16. That's what you decided. You say you didn't really have that direction at school, but what led you to then to go into the army and do that?
Yeah. So if we, I'm 39 now. I'm holding on to 30s. But if we look back to when I joined the military and left school, it was the year 2000. So there was no Iraq, there was Northern Ireland, and I certainly didn't leave my school thinking. I managed to get into the army first of all. So you don't need any GCSEs to pass to get into the army. All you need is to pass this quite simple test to get in. It's called the BARB test. Anyway, I managed to pass that, and that was prior to me doing my GCSEs. So as soon as I did that, I just didn't try. I didn't leave with anything. There was no C's. I think there might have been a couple of D's and whatever else, but left, joined the military, and that was the best thing that sort of happened to me. So my granddad on my dad's side, who was taken from us. He was in the military in the Shah. So and then his dad was, and then going back, it was military. And then on my mum's side, it was military all the way through. So it wasn't unnormal for me to it wasn't a surprise that I was going to go in the military. It was very much a place where you need to go in there to sort of find your way. But yeah, joined, and then curveball kind of comes along. And that was an unknown journey in myself. I didn't really know what to expect in the military. There weren't any of my friends at school joining the military, so I was the sort of only one in my year going into the army. And then I sort of remember doing my year's training and then walking into the NAFI, which is sort of like a cafe on site in a military base, and then seeing on TV this enormous tragedy happening, which was 9/11, and just been thinking, that's obviously going to change the way we do things today. And lo and behold, it did. It meant that we quickly deployed from. I think it's like we went for 48 notice hours to move in terms of going to war. So my friends got lost, unfortunately, and then I ended up going to Iraq after passing and doing my jumps course, which enabled me to be paratrained, and so jumping out of planes. So I sort of, in my world, I went into the reconnaissance area of the military, which was jumping out of airplanes and building up the battle picture, if you will, for command, to build up a bit of a plan on how we're going to do things in war.
But then what goes through your head then at that stage? Like when something like that happens with 9/11, you think that we are now going to go to war and stuff, and then you've got to go out there and do that. What your mindset? Where's that?
Yeah, I'm conscious that I might come up here and sort of come across quite confident. I was really scared. I was not like a confident person back then. I was naive. I sort of didn't really know what to expect at all, and I'd been on tour in Bosnia on active duty, but I hadn't been anywhere like Iraq before, nowhere near it. So actually going there with my unit and my, all my friends and things, it was an enormous experience. I didn't see my family for 5.5 months. So I was out there 20 minutes a week on a phone card. You get to speak to your mum, your dad, your brothers and sisters potentially. I had a girlfriend at the time. Like we're not used to that today, certainly. So I think that curveball came along, and then we had the fire strike sort of happen, which was quite funny. That was, I didn't join the army to be a fireman. I didn't train to be a fireman, but we had to sort of act on. So I was, driving a Green Goddess 1950s fire engine around London, putting out fires with my crew, which was quite funny and exciting at the same time. But again, these cards just kept on being dealt throughout my career of thinking, actually, this constant change, not really knowing you're going to have your weekend, just constantly not knowing what's going to happen. So that the journey of that military career was a surprising one. It was one where I sort of got to the end of that military career where I knew I didn't want to be told what to do anymore. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it instilled some real great disciplines and that competitiveness into my behaviors and wanting to do well ultimately.
But then you get to 21 and decide that you've had enough of the army. You want to leave the army and come out. And then so talk to me about that process afterwards. And then ultimately go in, I guess, and almost the start of an entrepreneurial journey. Then leading into that. Yeah.
So obviously, I was taking a bit of a leap of unknown into going to the military, and then in the army, it takes a year for you to sign off. So obviously, if you're relatively senior or you're quite valuable in the business, it's very normal to see 3 months notice, in a contract, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. In the military, it's 12 months. So it takes a long time to get out. And then there's this sort of fear building up of like there's cotton walls being removed from you, around you, because you can spend all your money at the weekend and you're still getting fed, you're still getting a roof over your head. So that bit started to come in. I thought, well, actually, I'll go into something whereby I can control my own destiny. I'll start an e-com store. I'll start an e-commerce website. So what I'll do is I'll go to the bank and I'll pretend I'm buying a car. Now the banks at the time were this was 2006. So they were all up for giving money to people in the military because you guaranteed to get money. So I borrowed £25,000 from the bank about a month before, 2 or 3 months before I'd left the military, and then started my first business with it, which was a sort of luxury sort of boutique that sold candles and loads of other stuff for couples going away and things.
So, and talk to us about that business then. What happened with that?
So, yeah, that was a really interesting journey. That lasted a year before I went bankrupt personally myself. So I ended up losing everything. I didn't know how to manage cash flow. I didn't know anything about online. I learned very quickly how to spend a lot of money and not get a great return. But actually, when I look back, it was one of the single best sort of learning curves I've ever had. It taught me just an enormous amount about losing everything, signing on at the dole as a proud military man. That was horrible, the sort of experience to sort of go through, like dressing up almost, pretending I didn't look the way I did. I just didn't look like Alex. I sort of went into the dole office a different person. So that lasted 6 months, but it was hard. I didn't really even think about paying rent or anything like that. It was just a complete eye opener in terms of spend.
I'm keen to just touch on your mindset around that point as well, like because especially going back to your dad, obviously going bankrupt, then you've first business, then gone bankrupt, and being in that position to then dust yourself off, go again. Talk to me a little bit about that.
It's weird. It's not easy to say this, but it's not that I think everything's positive. I always look at things that, I feel really lucky to be able to do the things I do. Even back then, I thought I'm lucky that I'm not in the army. I'm lucky that I'm not in Afghanistan. Like my brother did tours out there. Like there was all these things that were happening. I just felt I'm lucky I'm not doing that. I'm lucky I'm not in a ditch in Iraq. It was just, so I just sort of, I don't know, just put this shield up almost of trying to get through it and ultimately get into a place of, these things won't last forever. There will be an opportunity to move forward, it was always me just putting a bit of a shield through.
I think that's such a great, if anything we've learned, especially I guess over the last couple of years with curveballs as we're talking about today, but like things like COVID comes into play and for any business owner in the room that that is a massive curveball. But actually, what it's shown, and listening to you talk about that, for me, is listening. Big word coming out of it, which has done the last couple of years, resilience. Like you've got to have that resilience, and you've got to be able to go, oh, what's the worst that can happen? Actually, what's the best thing that can happen, and go again.
And I think it goes back to my original point of like inviting everyone here today to think about those hard decisions they've made that have actually been better or for worse. And actually, for me, that bankruptcy and signing on has enabled me to think when I do something, I don't want to fail. I don't want to fail. Do things. I try and do things to the best of my ability. But yeah, absolutely, it sort of dresses up that ability for you to go again and again and again.
And you certainly have done that. And we can, I mean, let's talk about the next business that you bootstrapped. Tell people a little bit about that.
Yeah, so me and my best mate, we were working for a little bit. So I came to Brighton. My wife, girlfriend at the time, she ended up working for American Express. We ended up just picking Brighton, coming here. I was a mortgage broker. That took me 4 times to pass the test to do that. I did that in 2007, and about 4 months later, the market sort of imploded. So I decided to go into. I worked for a company that was doing a lot of SEO for some comparison websites. Anyway, I met best mate, business partner, his best man with my wedding, Gareth. We saw this amazing company doing incredible things in America, in Chicago, called Groupon, and we were like, that looks good. Shall we try and do it ourselves? So we had some experience working with newspapers. We thought we'll build this tool for newspapers to run daily deals, and it just didn't get any traction. We just thought that the newspapers loved it. They were taking too long. They were, big companies back then, and ultimately we just ended up building it ourselves. We ended up getting a small following here in Brighton of about 3,500 people, and we were funding it. I had a bit of savings at the time. I must have, I don't know, five or 10,000 pounds. We borrowed some money from the bank. Gareth had the same. We ended up bootstrapping for about 8 months, and then we got into a trial with moneysupermarket.com, and They ran the trial. We ended up outselling Groupon 10-1 in the towns that we picked with some of the deals that we found. And it was just all luck. It just felt really lucky. Timing was perfect. Anyway, they ended up fast tracking. This is when Simon Nixon was in charge of it, one of the wealthiest people in the UK. And he expedited the transaction to buy the company. Which was fantastic. I just couldn't quite believe it.
Within
I was
27,
26, I think, at the time. Within 8 months of trading, it was just crazy. Real whirlwind. We had a small team of 4 people, I think, and they ended up reporting to the city because they're a public listed company. The deal, we didn't get all this, but it was a deal worth £11 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've started another company 8 months in, but you bootstrapped it to get to that point. 11 million. That was obviously you staying on to be involved in that company for a bit, but then you obviously left a bit of money on the table, quite a bit of money on the table, and come out. So talk to me about that decision. And
yeah, corporate marriage didn't really suit us. We sold the business, and it very quickly became clear that the way we wanted to run it was very different to how moneysupermarket.com wanted to run it. So we ended up leaving about a year and a bit later after we sold it, which was again a leap into the unknown. We wanted to work in payments. We found this amazing company in Sweden that was doing these mobile payments before Apple Pay, and they raised an incredible amount of money. They had a very successful company in their own right. They're an e-top-up company, processing billions of transactions, and then we ended up working for this company for 2 or 3 years, which was really interesting. But it just taught me that, again, nothing lasts forever. It was a great euphoric moment, but that moment was short-lived. It didn't last very long at all.
it gives you a taste, I guess, for you to go, actually. So we spoke a little bit about this offline, about, I guess, being money motivated, or you was driven from that from a younger age. Money motivated, I want to create this, and that gives you that taste, I guess, of that.
Yeah, I think, I've never started anything wanting to fail. I've never started anything wanting to raise money, particularly. I've always wanted to we've always been in businesses, or I've always been in businesses where we've spent our own money to get to a certain place, and unfortunately, even the first business where I personally went bankrupt, I managed to sell that afterwards, managed to sell the assets to pay my some other debt off. So, yeah, it's always been about trying to create and be in control of my own destiny, ultimately.
So, and I guess it's that we talked again a little bit offline about the fear of failure. A lot of things that stop people doing stuff is that fear of failure. What's your relationship like with that? Like, so you don't set out to want to fail, but obviously ups and downs, challenges along the way.
Yeah, I think I'd lie if I said here and pretend I'm some sort of visionary and hard-nosed person and just like, I just keep on going to do things. I don't go into anything thinking I'm going to fail, even when we've changed business models ever so slightly. I don't really call it failure. It's like testing or pivoting or whatever. We call it a different thing in different industries, I think. Personally, I don't enjoy failure. I enjoy looking back at certain things that I've done that haven't worked out, and it tastes better when you've gone and done it yourself, or you've managed to push through adversity. I think in anything like that, it's incredible. Like even passing my para course, like one of the most proudest things I've ever been able to do, that was really hard. It's near special forces, so it's tough to do. It's not meant to be easy. So those sorts of things you learn very early on, and I had people on the course that have failed it 4 times. So to do those courses 4 times, I don't know how people have the mindset to do that. That's incredible. So yeah, I don't enjoy failure. I don't do anything to, but it's having that psychological safety, I think, and that is what we're trying to create in our business today. Is that it's okay to test and not do that great in something, or we'll learn from it. That's the key thing. It's having that safety net that the team and the people around you, either personally or professionally, can have, that they can learn from.
I guess that is it. It's the lessons that we learn from, not just necessarily failures, but like you say, pivoting and whatever business we're in, that you go in a different path, and actually that's okay to go, we've tried that's not really worked, but we've learned from that, and then we'll go elsewhere. So I mean, which you must have had a lot. So talk to me a little bit, let's go into where we are now with Tillo, and tell people a little bit more about that, and that amazing journey.
Yeah, no, it's been so 7 years since we founded the business, pretty much. 6 years trading, and we grew that. We found an industry ultimately that was very fragmented and antiquated when it came for a buying journey of gift cards. So gift cards are interesting things in their own right, but nothing that we do is really about gifting. There are gifting platforms that we power, but most of it is self-use. Now, when we started this, there were 2 incumbents in the industry, and those businesses there were doing an incredible job with physical cards. So we came out from a digital perspective thinking, well, you turn on Netflix and you expect it to be on immediately. You order your food on Deliveroo, it just comes immediately. Whereas in the world of self-use, it was very antiquated in terms of buying. So really hard business to start. So it's a 2-sided marketplace, but through real sheer hard work and through myself, my business partner, and the team, we managed to create something and pioneer what is Tillo. So, ultimately we work with thousands of brands on one side of our network, and on the other side, we've got lots of publishers or buyers, if you will. So they go through government agencies, through to crypto companies using it for off-ramp, to rewarding companies, employees, and things like that. So business grew really well, and we bootstrapped it. We raised a tiny bit of money, and we proved the product market fit was working. And we, again, failure set in. We looked to do a Series A 5 years ago or something, 4 years ago, and just didn't work out. The message didn't resonate. And it was one of the best decisions that that ever happened to us in hindsight, because we've only raised £1 million. And that was because it took us about 6 months, 7 months of funding ourselves. We did a bit of a raise, a seed extension, got profitable, and then we've just been profitable ever since. Now, if we did the Series A, the company would be very different, I think. I think we'd behave very differently, but we're proud that we've got the long-term security for our partners that we work with, the team, and we look long-term, ultimately. That's the sort of key now. But yeah, the business has grown substantially over the 7 years that we've been incorporated for, especially around COVID time. We just saw this huge transformation of digital, and yeah, can't quite believe we're a business of nearly 100 people and in Austin, Texas. and Brighton, which is HQ.
So that's such an incredible. And the theme, obviously, of the day, like talking about curveballs and things coming into the journey, like you obviously just mentioned there about with the Series A, like you get to that point and think, oh, this is the only way we're gonna get there. That doesn't come in. To actually being able to pivot, to be able to adapt and go, right, what's the next stage and how do we do it? And like you said, actually worked out better.
It does. I think quite often it normally does. I think even in the worst cases, even when I remember being in a ditch in a cold night in Iraq, and I just remember smiling, thinking, it's not that bad. I'm being paid to be here. And it's actually quite safe where I was in the ditch. I wasn't being hurt or being frustrated or something. It wasn't. I could always just pulling that positivity out of it. I've had health scares recently, well, a year ago or so, and I think you just look at things very differently in that light.
Yeah, mate, amazing. Look, it's fascinating, change. Tell me, what's the future hold for Alex, Preece, and Tillo?
Yeah, I'm bad for future thinking. I'm not. I never really think more than 2 years out. So my wife's saying, what's our 10-year plan? What's our? I don't know. I love doing things. I feel really proud actually that we've been able to do lots of stuff locally. We're doing stuff with the Rocking Horse. We've done stuff with Martlets this year. I'm at an event on Friday because of Martlets, who help a lot of people when it comes to end of life care. We've done a lot of stuff with, planting trees and sort of giving back locally, private school tuition for children locally as well, emergency school funds and things like that for the most hard-hit families. Being able to do that, that's really cool. I want to do more of that sort of stuff, definitely. There's a journey of unknown that I'm taking at the moment. I'm trying to convince my wife that it's a great idea for me and the kids, 3 kids, to go to, and they're all young, like 8, 9, 6 and 1, to go to Austin and live there. That's a hard sell when we've been set up here for 9 years, living in our current house. So, going through a bit of a journey unknown there, to be honest. But do more stuff locally. Ultimately, that's the key thing. Giving more back.
Amazing. Look, it's like I say, it's been brilliant chatting to you, and I'm sure people have taken a lot away. I do like to finish generally interviews with some quick fire questions, which I'm going to throw these at you if that's okay to finish up with. So, if you could go back in time and change one specific moment in your life, what would that be and why?
Yeah, of course, we've got 3 minutes, haven't we? So for me, instantly thinking about that at school, I wasn't proud of my performance there at all. I don't look back and feel proud that I did the best I could. I could have done a lot better. I've sort of failed there. So that's where I would go back.
Tell me a specific story about someone in your life that's helped to make you the person you are today. What did they do?
That's hard, isn't it? I think I never had anyone around me really when I was growing up thinking that I wanted to aspire to be. But I look at my granddad and the relationship he had with my nan that passed, like, I think they were together for like 60 years or something. Like, that's incredible. And I also love the solid relationship he had with all of us as grandkids. So sort of learning from him, stability, and that sort of tenacity in working on a relationship or business, just taking those sort of learnings from it.
Amazing. What failures do you cherish the most?
The bankruptcy, losing everything. Being that rock bottom place of just not having anything and having to start from fresh and not wanting to go there again.
Look, final one. If you give our audience some key points to take away from that Alex Preece rule book of life lessons, what would they be?
Right. Small batch coffee is definitely the best in Brighton and Hove. I don't care what they say about Flower Pot Bakery. No, seriously. So ideas versus opportunities. I think I have lots of ideas. I'm sure everyone here has tons of ideas. It's the opportunities that are important. Like, is it fulfilling enough for you to take time out of your time to go after it? I think that's the first thing that comes to my mind. I think passion, the type of passion that's so contagious that can convince people to join you on that mission, that can convince your partner to get excited, your loved ones around you to be excited, people to give you money to be a part of it. That sort of passion, I think, is just really key, and conviction. I think luck but try making your own luck. I think, what other things were we thinking? I think being human, being more kind to each other, to everyone, always being nice to people, I think is a nice thing. I think you can take a long way. I mean, I remember leaving the army, I didn't behave the way I do now. You can't behave like that to people. You can't speak to people like people get spoken to in the army. So I took a real learning curve 6 months after I left that, I have to change your behavior and attitude when you're sort of talking and presenting and doing everything you're doing. So I think everyone can take a bit of a bit of love out of that, if you will.
Brilliant. Mate, thank you so much. I'm sure everyone will agree they've taken a lot away from today. I know I certainly have. So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and hopefully everyone got a lot out of that, which I'm sure they did. So thanks very much. Wish you continued success with Tillo. Amazing.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it, Sam. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Please follow us on social media so we can keep the conversation going, and sign up via all the different channels that we're on. Hashtag is Wildcards Podcast. You can also subscribe to our podcast and be the first to kind of hear every episode that have been released. So yeah, hopefully speak to you all soon. Thank you.